The morning mist clung to St. Helena Medical Center like a bad relationship, unwanted, persistent, and impossible to shake off. Dr. Finn Ashwood stood at his office window on the 4th floor, watching the city below pretend to wake up with purpose. His reflection stared back. Dark circles under piercing blue eyes. Stubble that suggested he'd made friends with his office couch again. Which he had. The coffee in his hand had gone cold an hour ago, but he kept drinking it anyway. Waste not, want not. Besides, cold disappointment was still disappointment, and he'd developed quite a taste for it over the years. Dr. Ashwood? Finn turned to see Nurse Tracy hovering in his doorway like a nervous bird. Everyone at St. Helena had learned to read his moods the way meteorologists read storm patterns, from a safe distance. The new psychologist is here for orientation. Dr. Wellington asked if you could show her around the trauma unit. Of course he did. Finn's smile was sharp enough to perform surgery. Because nothing says welcome to hell like a guided tour from the local Grim Reaper. Sir? Send her up in 10 minutes, Tracy. I need time to practice my people skills. As Tracy's footsteps retreated with suspicious speed, Finn turned back to his window. A new psychologist. Perfect. Another person with a degree in asking uncomfortable questions and a minor in making people feel worse about themselves. The elevator chimed with the enthusiasm of someone who clearly didn't work here. Yet. Dr. Helena Cross emerged into the trauma unit like she owned the place. Confident, observant, and annoyingly put together at 8 a.m. on a Monday. She was mid-30s, sharp, intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and auburn hair pulled back in a ponytail that probably stayed perfect through natural disasters. She moved with the kind of calm efficiency that suggested she'd seen enough chaos to be unimpressed by whatever fresh hell St. Helena could offer. Dr. Ashwood? Her voice was warm but professional, like a good therapist's office. Comfortable, but you're still paying by the hour. I'm Dr. Helena Cross. Thank you for taking the time to show me around. Finn stood, extending his hand. Dr. Cross, welcome to St. Helena Medical Center, where hope comes to die and insurance claims come to multiply. Their handshake was brief and professional. Helena's grip was firm, her gaze direct. No nervous laughter at his joke, no awkward attempt to lighten the mood. Interesting. I see you're the hospital's welcome committee, she said. Very inspiring. Oh, this is me being inspiring. You should see me when I'm actually trying to be discouraging. I'll consider myself warned. As they walked through the trauma unit, Finn found himself studying Helena out of the corner of his eye. She asked intelligent questions, made thoughtful observations, and somehow managed to remain completely unruffled by the controlled chaos around them. It was like watching someone navigate a hurricane while commenting on the interesting cloud formations. Dr. Ashwood! A voice boomed from the cafeteria entrance like a theatrical proclamation. You haven't eaten breakfast again, have you? Ruby Chen appeared in the doorway like a 60-year-old tornado wearing scrubs and wielding a wooden spoon as if it were Excalibur. She had worked at St. Helena for 30 years and treated every doctor, nurse, and orderly like cast members in her personal soap opera. Ruby, Finn said, attempting deflection. This is Dr. Cross, our new psychologist. Oh, wonderful! Ruby threw her arms wide like she was accepting an Academy Award. You look like you actually eat vegetables. Not like this one. She pointed the wooden spoon at Finn like she was casting a spell. Living on coffee and existential dread. Ruby's eyes narrowed dramatically as she studied Helena. But you're too calm. Too normal. This place will either cure you of that or drive you completely insane. There is no middle ground at St. Helena. Helena regarded Ruby with the same expression she might use to watch a mildly interesting documentary. Good to know. I'll try to manage my expectations accordingly. She's already disappointing me, Finn murmured to Helena as Ruby bustled away, muttering about proper nutrition and the tragic state of modern medicine. Ruby prefers her new arrivals with more visible neuroses. I'll work on developing some, Helena replied without missing a beat. Any particular type you'd recommend? Despite himself, Finn felt his mouth twitch towards something that might, in better lighting, be mistaken for a smile. Their next stop was the IT department, located in what had once been a storage closet and still felt like one. Marco Silva sat surrounded by computer monitors like a tech priest at his electronic altar, muttering sweet nothings to a server tower. Come on, Jessica, don't be like this, Marco pleaded with the machine. I know I haven't updated your drivers lately, but you're being dramatic. Marco names all his computers after ex-girlfriends, Finn explained to Helena. It's either romantic or deeply disturbing, depending on your perspective. Marco looked up, his wire-rimmed glasses slightly askew. He was 28, but had the harried expression of someone who'd been fighting with technology since the dawn of the internet. Dr. Ashwood, Jessica's acting up again, and I think I'm having chest pains. Do you think it's related? Can computer-induced stress cause cardiac events? Because I read this article about electromagnetic fields and... Marco, Helena interrupted. When did you last eat? Eat? Marco blinked. Is that why I feel dizzy? Possibly. Also, your chest pains might be anxiety. Try breathing. Oh. Marco took an experimental breath. That actually helps. Are you magic? No, just practical. As they left the IT cave, Finn shook his head. Marco's convinced he has every disease known to medical science. Last week, he was certain he had scurvy. Does he eat citrus? Obsessively, after I told him about the scurvy thing. So you're enabling his hypochondria? I prefer to think of it as providing educational opportunities. Their final stop was the ICU, domain of nurse Sarah Blaine, who ruled her ward with the authority of someone who'd seen everything twice and been unimpressed both times. Sarah was 45, with platinum blonde hair that had been fashionable in 1987, and an attitude that suggested she'd earned every line on her face the hard way. She stood behind the nurse's station like a queen holding court, her sharp eyes missing nothing. Dr. Ashwood, she greeted them with a knowing smirk. Playing tour guide today, are we? Sarah, meet Dr. Cross. She'll be working with our trauma patients. Sarah's assessment was swift and thorough. Chicago Emergency Psych, 5 years, specializes in acute PTSD and crisis intervention. At Elena's surprised look, Sarah shrugged. I read personnel files. Also, your shoes are practical but expensive. You carry yourself like someone who's been in real fights. And you're not trying to impress anyone here, which means you've got nothing to prove. Impressive, Helena said calmly. I used to date a guy who could read people like that, Sarah continued. Course, he was a rock star, so he was mostly reading girls who wanted to sleep with him. Different skill set, same basic principle. She leaned forward. You know what your real challenge is going to be here, Doc? I'm sure you're going to tell me. H-I-M. Sarah jerked her head toward Finn. He's brilliant, dedicated, and more screwed up than a soup sandwich. He'll try to psychoanalyze you before you can return the favor. Thanks for the heads up, Elena said, glancing at Finn with amusement. I'll try to stay one step ahead. Good luck with that, honey. As they finished the tour, they encountered Dr. James Wellington in the hallway, the hospital's chief of staff, 65 years old and sharp as a scalpel despite his approaching retirement. He was scribbling notes in a small leather journal he always carried. Ah, Dr. Cross. Jamie looked up with a genuine smile. How was the grand tour of our little circus? Educational, Elena replied. Jamie collects the most creative lies patients tell him, Finn explained. He's writing a book. Jamie's eyes twinkled. Today's entry. A gentleman who claimed his rectal injury was caused by accidentally sitting on a shampoo bottle while getting out of the shower naked. Creativity, 6 out of 10. Plausibility, 0 out of 10. Fascinating hobby, Elena said with perfect composure. Well, Dr. Cross, Finn said as Jamie headed off, chuckling to himself. What's your professional assessment of our little madhouse? Elena considered for a moment, watching Ruby dramatically gesticulate at a soup pot through the cafeteria window. Marco having what appeared to be a heated argument with a printer, and Henry composing haikus while replacing ceiling tiles. Interesting, she said finally, in a case study waiting to happen kind of way. Despite himself, Finn laughed. Actually laughed, not his usual sharp bark of amusement. Fair enough, Dr. Cross. Fair enough. Before he could add another sarcastic comment, his pager buzzed urgently. Trauma coming in. ETA 2 minutes. Duty calls, he said, his expression shifting back to professional focus. Welcome to St. Helena, Dr. Cross. Try not to let it break you. He started toward the emergency bay, then paused. Seriously, almost ominously. Oh, and doctor? Around here, the ambulance doors burst open with the controlled violence of emergency medicine. Paramedics rushed in with a young woman on a gurney, her dark hair matted with blood, her pale skin almost translucent under the harsh lights. 24-year-old female, motorcycle accident, the paramedic called out. Severe head trauma, possible internal bleeding. She's been unconscious since we found her. Finn's world tilted sideways. For a moment that stretched into eternity, he couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The patient's face, delicate features, dark hair, the same devastating beauty that had once smiled at him across 1,000 morning coffees. Melanie. His Melanie. Dead 3 years now. Killed by his arrogance and her trust in his judgment. Dr. Ashwood? Sarah Murphy appeared at his elbow. We need you here. Finn shook himself back to the present, muscle memory overriding emotional paralysis. His hands moved with practiced precision, checking pupils, monitoring vitals, barking orders to his team. But his mind kept fragmenting, slipping between past and present like a broken film reel. The girl on the table looked so much like Melanie that it felt like the universe was playing a particularly cruel joke, as if 3 years of guilt and sleepless nights weren't punishment enough. As the trauma team worked frantically around him, Finn caught a glimpse of Elena in the doorway. She was watching the organized chaos with professional interest, but her eyes found his across the room. For just a moment, their gazes held. In that instant, Finn saw something that made his chest tighten. Understanding. Not the clinical understanding of a psychologist studying a patient, but the deeper recognition of someone who knew what it meant to carry ghosts. The heart monitor's steady beep filled the sudden quiet as they stabilized the patient. She would live, but the brain trauma was severe. She might never wake up. Just like Melanie never had. Dr. Jamie Wellington appeared beside him, his weathered face creased with concern. "Good work, Finn. You saved her life." "Did I?" Finn stared down at the unconscious girl. "Or did I just give her a different kind of death?" Jamie's expression softened. "Son, you can't save everyone. And the ones you lose, they're not your fault." "Aren't they?" Finn pulled off his surgical gloves with more force than necessary. "Because I seem to have developed quite a talent for losing patients who look like people I used to care about." He turned to find Helena still watching him, her expression unreadable. Their eyes met again, and this time, he saw something that made his walls slam back into place. Pity. "Excuse me," he said to no one in particular, and walked away. Behind him, he heard Dr. Wellington's voice, quiet but carrying. "That girl looks just like his fiancée, the one who died on his table 3 years ago." Elena's response was too quiet to hear, but Finn didn't need to. He'd seen enough in her eyes to know that she understood exactly what kind of broken he was. The question was whether she'd try to fix him, and whether he'd let her.